Hi everybody, welcome back to Daystorm Studio. Today we're doing a multi-layer gel monoprint using my own face. Most days I don't offend myself, so today we're going to commit to this. I printed the photo on brochure paper using my inkjet printer, and if you're doing inkjet transfers, make sure that you use brochure paper because it just works much better. So you press it down really well into that gel plate, and you rub it, and you get good contact, and there's that magic moment when you peel it back, and there it is. And I know that facial expression I chose here looks like I just got handed unexpected tax paperwork. You see, I've been reading this article on diabetic ketoacidosis and pregnancy, and it just made me think about whenever we were expecting my youngest. And I got to thinking, what would it feel like to find out that you're expecting at 50? And that answer somewhere between joy and terror and checking your blood pressure 3 times. Our youngest was born when I was just 48. And so, just 48. And parenting now in your 50s is basically CrossFit with less sleep and more goldfish crackers. Also, I'm significantly grayer than what this photo suggested. That's why I put in some mica powder because, let's face it, this picture is lying and it was spreading misinformation. So for color, I'm going with bright colors because when light, hinge, and major news settle, beige just doesn't feel honest. Big news deserves loud colors. Red for panic, blue for panic, but it is cooler. Don't worry about that bottom section there. I'm just going to trim it off if it looks a little awkward because just trust the process. I'm in too far to stop. Now I'm going to add texture using what I lovingly like to call the junk from the kitchen drawer. So for example, this is a pill bottle cap. It looks actually pretty cool. And then you have a spice bottle cap because apparently I have a thing for caps. Now, this is a soda can tabs I've hot glued onto cardboard like some kind of exhausted art goblin. Very high tech, I know. I'm pressing all of these shapes into the paint because I want that feeling of mental chaos. Because when you hear big news, your brain doesn't pretend or doesn't respond with this calm jazz music. It responds like 12 raccoons fighting in a church attic while Sister Holier Than Thou hits at high C. So this is where I'm bringing in the next text, and I'm doing this series about different ways to use words in gel printing without just writing words. Now I want this text to feel like thought, like the background noise that your brain refuses to turn off. Take a thin layer of black paint here, you just gently press the text on it and you pull it off. And it's going to leave behind that negative space where the words become voids, which honestly feels a little poetic for medical writing. Years of graduate school for the words become voids. Now you can clean up a little extra paint with baby wipes because apparently every artistic breakthrough in my life eventually involves baby wipes. Oh boy. Now I'm going to go back to my face. I want all those bright colors and textures to still show through, so I'm rolling titanium white across the whole thing. Now, looking back, the one thing I'd probably do differently is bring the red and blue paint closer to my face so I'd have less white space around the profile. But honestly, art is just about making confident decisions and then calling your mistakes intentional design choices, which is basically my whole career. An intentional design choice. So after I've done that, I'm going to pull that text layer first. It's always like I always like to put something heavy on top whenever I do transfers just to help pull it off. In this case, I'm using that big hardcover book because mostly it works, partly because it makes me feel like I'm academically bullying the paper into cooperation. It's very effective. We pull that first print, there's a text layer, it's nice and crisp. Next is that final pull, and this is where I use clear matte medium. And yes, I do apply a generous amount right here because regret is forever, but matte medium can still be fixed. I do brayer that across the whole faceplate, and yes, this is exactly where I get a little too aggressive and drag some mica sparkle into my face again. But apparently, I'm committed to looking like a mildly stressed disco wizard. But honestly, it adds depth, so we're going to call it intentional. I do want this to be clear whenever I put the words down. And so that's why I use the matte medium. The whole idea is that when you hear big life-changing news, the brain gets crowded, there are words, thoughts, questions, panic calculations, Google searches you probably shouldn't do at 2 a.m. and it all piles up. And I do, after I put the text down on top of my face, I put that book on there and just let it set for like about 30 minutes or so. We're gonna do something else and probably has to do with coffee. Now, when I go to peel it, I always like to pull the gel plate away from the paper instead of the paper away from the gel. When I do multiple layers, it gives me cleaner results and slightly fewer opportunities for me to ruin everything dramatically. So you just peel it back slowly, and there it is, that full layered print. This part never gets old. It's that little moment where you go, wow, it actually worked. Because honestly, half of art is confidence and the other half is surprised gratitude. And so after I do this, I'm going to trim off that bottom section and touch up a few spots where the paint didn't fully transfer and clean up some edges. It's just a little outlining here and there and a little paint here and there. Basically, artistic version of putting on concealer and pretending that you slept well last night. But, you know, that's the final piece, and it's going to look pretty cool in the end. I really do love how this ultimately turned out. It's got texture, color, thought, chaos, which honestly describes parenting in your 50s, especially to a toddler. Um, but if you enjoyed this project, make sure you subscribe, follow along, and hang out with us here at Daystorm Studio. We make art, we make mistakes, and occasionally we make something surprisingly cool. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.